Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Soul Podcasting, the show where we dive deep into purpose-driven podcasting and soulful storytelling for founders, CEOs, and visionaries who are building something lasting. And I'm your host, Demetria Zinga, founder of Soul Podcasting Collective, where we help creative leaders amplify their voice without sacrificing their time, sanity, or soul. Today's sponsor is HoneyBook. And here's a quick reality check. Most of the burnout in podcasting doesn't come from hitting record. It comes from everything else, like the back and forth scheduling, the endless follow-ups, the wait, did they even sign the contract type of chaos. Does that sound familiar to you? That's exactly why I started using HoneyBook. And honestly, it's been a total game changer for me. From onboarding podcast production clients to sending proposals and automating my repurposing workflows, everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. And now they even have AI-powered note-taking. So I end up spending way less time buried in admin and way more time in my creative flow. And I'm a creative, so I would rather spend my time there. So if you're running a podcast or any kind of creative business, this is the move to protect your time and your energy. You can grab 30% off your first year by using my referral link, which is share.honeybook.com/herbusiness. And that's in the show notes too. And you're going to thank yourself for that one. Now, today's episode is a love letter to every CEO, creative founder, or visionary leader who's ever said, I want to start a podcast, but I don't have the time or the energy to keep up with it. Or maybe you've already launched, but now you're feeling this creative fatigue creep in. So let's talk about what it really looks like to protect your creative energy as a podcaster and how you can build a show that feels aligned, energizing, and manageable. First off, as founders, your energy is your currency. You're not just managing tasks, you're stewarding vision and people and ideas, as well as their decisions. And that kind of leadership takes a lot of mental and emotional bandwidth. So when podcasting becomes another to-do on an endless list of things you already have to do, it kind of drains you instead of fueling you. But podcasting can be your most creative and energizing platform if you approach it like the strategic CEO that you are, not just a content creator. You guys know, if you've been listening to me for a while, that I'm all about content creation and content strategy, and I love supporting creators because that's where I am in my business. I love the creative part of what I do, and producing content is something that I thoroughly enjoy. But I've learned some things the hard way. And I've had seasons where I've tried to do it all, from writing the scripts to editing my audio at 1 or 2 in the morning, or uploading to all these platforms, promoting every single episode by myself. And it's not always sustainable. I lost the joy of the process because I was bogged down in the technical weeds by myself. And that's exactly what I help my clients to avoid. With a team behind you who supports you, you can do anything. And so here are a couple of signs that you're leaking creative energy in your podcast workflow. The first sign is that you're doing everything by yourself. If you're still editing out every out of your audio, if you're still scheduling all your guests, creating your show notes, hosting to 5 different platforms, you're not just a host. You are essentially, and I'm sorry to say, an unpaid production team. And that's not sustainable in the long run. So I am going to give you some light at the end of this tunnel, and I'm going to give you a solution or some solutions that will help you. So keep listening. The second sign is that you're inconsistent because podcasting just feels heavy. You skip weeks, you push back your launches, you ghost your audience, not because you're not committed to them or to the work you want to do, but mainly because you might feel exhausted. You don't need more hustle in your life. You actually just need more support. And another tip for you to let you know that you're leaking that creative energy is that you're stuck in perfectionism. When every single episode feels like it has to be a masterpiece, you spend hours upon hours editing, rewriting, doubting. That kills your momentum and it drains your spark. If this sounds familiar to you, just know that you're not alone. We've all done this. Those of us who are creators and we are podcasters and we've been out here doing this for a minute, we understand because we've done all the things you're probably currently doing, right? Just know that you're not alone and that there is a better way. So here's what protecting your energy actually looks like. I'm going to paint a picture of you of what it actually looks like to podcast in a way that protects you so that your energy stays sacred for you. And then it even gives some energy back to you. And I'm not just sharing theory because I have lived this. I am living it right now. I've created and hosted over the course of 20 years, 8 personal podcasts. This is not including podcasts that I've helped others to create, but these are my own personal shows. And some were short run, some were ongoing, some were more experimental, but each one taught me something powerful about what it means to podcast from a place of soul alignment instead of burnout. And I'm going to give you a big tip on this one. This is one of the biggest things that have helped me over the years, and it's a game changer, and that is batch recording. Because there was a time in the early days back when I was hosting my homeschool podcast where I was recording and editing episodes week to week. So I would wait for inspiration to strike, and then I would scramble to record at night at the last minute after putting my daughter to bed. And let me tell you what, that is a quick way to resent podcasting. Now I take a more intentional approach. I block off time, usually 1 or 2 mornings a month, and I record multiple episodes in flow. I light a candle, I grab my tea, I treat the space with a sacred container. Like there's no rushing, no multitasking. I'm not doing a million other things in my business. It's just me and the mic. Batching doesn't just save time. It protects my creative momentum. When I'm in my groove, the ideas just flow faster and I walk away feeling energized instead of drained. So if you're a founder juggling meetings and launches and team check-ins, batching lets you stay in CEO mode while still showing up for your audience. Also, here's another tip for you. And I'm just going to be real with you. I do still edit my own podcasts because I enjoy it. That's part of what I do. I love the editing process. And there's something about shaping the story, cleaning up the audio, hearing the final mix that feels creative and satisfying for me. It's part of my rhythm. But here's what I don't do anymore. I don't try to do it all. Years ago, I was also designing all my own graphics and for my social media headers and my podcast banner art, just all the things. That level of creative control might sound admirable, but honestly, it was exhausting and it drained my energy and it pulled me away from what I really wanted to do, which is to create content, connect with my audience, and just kind of stay in my lane as a CEO. Back a few episodes ago, when I interviewed Angela Ross, we talked about staying in our zone of genius. And that is what I've had to learn how to do. So I just completely released my graphic design. There are some things that I still piddle around with in Canva, but for the most part, if it is something like a cover art or if it's something that I'm going to be showing on a regular basis, not just, an Instagram post, but something more substantial, I will delegate that piece that no longer feels aligned to me. And that would be the graphic design. And that's what I help my clients do now through Soul Podcasting Collective, because not everyone wants to edit their own episodes like I do. And you shouldn't have to. If audio or video editing isn't your thing or it eats up your time and your creativity, that's your cue to hand it off. Protecting your energy is about knowing which tasks fuel you and which ones flood you. And then you just build the right support systems to hold up the parts that don't need your direct touch. So you don't have to be in the weeds of every single thing that's happening for your audio, all your audio waveforms, all your fades, all your cuts and splices and dices and all the stuff. That's what my team and I are here for. So you can stay in your zone of genius and still produce a podcast that you're proud of. Now, over the years, I played with all kinds of podcast formats. I've tried solo episodes, guest interviews, coaching style episodes. I've done themed months. I've done seasons. I've done series. I've narrated. I've done a lot of different things, just kind of, like I said, experimenting. So I have also gone from 5-minute faith reflections all the way up to 45-minute to an hour interviews with thought leaders. And through all of this, I've learned something crucial, that you get to design a podcast that matches your energy, not someone else's blueprint. There were seasons where a 15-minute solo episode just gave me life. And other times, a deep interview is what felt right. So right now, I lean toward kind of shorter, story-driven, soul-led episodes because that's what feels light and aligned to me, and that's what my audience responds to. And when it's an interview, it's going to be a bit longer, maybe a 30-minute episode. But I don't chase the algorithm, and I don't produce content just to stay on trend. I listen to what's stirring in me and what I'm hearing from you, my listeners, and where the landscape of podcasting seems to be heading, because podcast is always evolving, and it has always been evolving for the past few decades. When you simplify your format, you allow your show to take a breather. You give yourself permission to let it evolve with your seasons and not just your strategy. This is about freedom for you to feel aligned with what you're doing. That kind of freedom is everything. You know what else drains creative energy really fast, though? It's recording when you're tired, when you're depleted, and you're done. Right? So in my earlier podcasting years, I used to try to fit in episodes around my life, and I'd squeeze recording into 30-minute windows between client calls or between homeschool activities, or force myself to create during my off-peak times just to stay consistent. Most recently, I have had to podcast after work, before work, on the weekends, whatever worked for me, right? When you're balancing a full-time job with your podcasting passion, it can be a little bit tricky to figure out when you're going to fit in those episodes. But sometimes that feels a little bit forced, right? And sometimes it can feel like you are working hard toward finding time for your passion. Forced creativity can feel soul-sucking. So now I pay close attention to my rhythms. I know I'm at my creative best in the early morning hours, so I block that time off. Whether that was before I headed into my full-time job a few years ago, or whether that was during a lunch break, or even further back in my life when I homeschooled my kids and they were on their lunch break, I might have that 30 minutes that I could record. Fortunately, today I have a lot more time to work on podcasting. It's what I do. But even now, with all the time that I have devoted to podcasting, I'm doing this intentionally when it feels right. In the mornings is when it's perfect. For example, right now, I'm recording this at 8:30 a.m. because the house is quiet. My husband's taking my daughter to school and things are just a little quiet in the home. So I can do a lot of my recording now, a lot of my batch recording. But I'm in a mood to do this right now because I have more energy first thing in the morning. If I'm not in the zone, I don't record because, again, energy transfers into your audio. Your listeners can feel whether you're inspired or just going through the motions. So protecting your energy means honoring your cycles, honoring your headspace, honoring your energy level, and giving yourself grace when you need to rest. If you're just not feeling it, maybe this is not your time to record a show, right? Maybe you need to take a nap, get some rest, grab something to eat, get energized. Get some coffee, whatever you need, and position yourself so that you're ready to pour out of yourself to your audience. And last but not least, this one is huge because, again, I do like to make sure that I say this a lot on my shows. I think it's important just because we're living in a world where everything's about the bottom line. And that's what we do as digital marketers. That's what it's about in business. You do want that bottom line to look right. You want to feel comfortable. You want to be confident that what you're doing, it's not only resonating with your listeners, but that it's moving towards the point where you can start monetizing and seeing some return on your investment. But that said, I think it's important to also remind ourselves that we shouldn't obsess over downloads, over our likes, over the number of our Reels performances. Don't obsess over those things. What do I track? I actually track engagement, response, and I track whether or not my show is resonating with my audience. I can tell if it's resonating because of feedback. I can tell because of the energy that is flowing through the show, mainly because of feedback. I know that sounds a little woo about energy flowing through the show, but it's mainly about how people respond to what I'm putting out there, whether it's in socials or whether it's personal DMs. That helps me to gauge the direction of the show. When someone DMs me and says, hey, your episode helped me to pivot my strategy, or I finally felt seen after listening to your show, that to me, my friend, is data. That is the true data. And it's the evidence that I'm aligned and that the message actually matters. Podcasting for me is not a vanity metric machine. It's a legacy building platform, and it can be for you too. So if you're feeling stretched thin, trying to do all of the things and please every single platform, I want you to pause and to breathe and remember that you don't need to go viral. You need to go deep. Protecting your energy is not just about time management. It's about soul stewardship. It's about choosing podcasting as a space of expression, connection, and joy, and not just another marketing channel that you're pressured to maintain. You get to create from overflow and not depletion. You get to build something that lasts without losing yourself in the process. And I'm right here cheering you on, helping you to edit less and express more. So this is where I come in soul to soul. At Soul Podcasting Collective, we're not just an editing service, we're your creative partners. We help founders, authors, and thought leaders preserve their energy while still showing up powerfully. Now, we offer done-for-you editing, episode repurposing, and SEO-aligned show notes so that your content works harder for you without you having to work harder. You get to just record, hand it off to us, and trust that it's being beautifully polished and strategically published. And that, my friend, is a whole different way of podcasting. That, to me, is podcasting with soul. So you don't need to hustle your way through another season of your show. You can podcast with flow, with rhythm, with joy, and with the peace of knowing you don't have to carry all the weight. And if you've been waiting for permission to protect your creative energy, I want you to consider this, that your voice matters and your message matters, but your well-being also matters. If you're ready to shift into a new way of creating your business, we would love to support you. And you can find out more about what we do, what we offer to you at soulpodcasting.com. Or you can connect with me directly. I would love to hear your vision and help bring it to life. You can find us also on Instagram at Soul Podcasting and follow us there. Kind of see what we're up to and what we're doing. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep creating with purpose and keep leading with soul. All right. That's it for now, and happy podcasting.